Don't touch it. Don't touch it. All right. I'm Mia Voss. That's Ashley. That's Melissa. There you go.
That's a fun.
I think ladies.
Quick. When I think of smell, I'm like, I don't know. Our favorite. Or something else. It's just a. Okay, I trust you. Did we hit? Yes. Are we recording?
Yes.
No, we are. Okay. Look at that. Why? You didn't tell me we were going to record this. I just came up with it. Why not? Okay. So who are we? Why are we here? Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. I'm Melissa Gressner. Ellen lovingly coined me Dr. Melissa. So I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and speaker, coach, author. I'm working on my first book with Miss Ellen's help over there. Thank you. Nice. So that you can learn how to live core confident. We're going to talk a little bit about how core confidence can help with comparison and perfectionism, why we're here. And it's a natural segue to Miss Ashley over here because I'm jumping ahead. Part of why we collaborated is we realized there's a huge overlap in a lot of the clients that we work with, having kind of the same issue, and of course we both meet them in different ways, yes, but very similar. So that's kind of the synergy we immediately connected on in helping clients around confidence. Yes, that's all it.
So my name is Ashley DePaulis. I am a sustainable health practitioner, and I help everyday athletes master their minds so they can get back into action after an injury or health challenge. Yeah. So, when you can imagine that when you're injured or experiencing some sort of health challenge that your confidence is pretty low. So I have developed the concept of having an inner athlete, and so that's what I want you, even if you don't consider yourself an athlete, consider having an athlete mindset, and that this inner athlete is a part of you and wants to express itself feeling energetic, alive, and strong. So that's where I'll leave that now, and we'll get into the rest. Yeah.
Well, do we want to start with, since we have such a nice, small, intimate group tonight, maybe we could do a quick intro, like your name, and we literally just came up with this right now.
Yes.
I said to Ashley, one of my favorite quick icebreakers.
I just put my butt to the camera.
That's okay.
There you go.
One of my favorite icebreakers is to ask, what's your favorite scent or smell? So, did I throw everyone for a punch? So one of mine is, we're nearing the end of it, but fall, the smell of fall, leaves, the smell when you're walking outside. So I'm Melissa, and I like the smell of fall.
That doesn't sound weird.
I have core confidence. I'm totally fine with it.
Do you want to go that way?
My name is Melissa as well, and I would say we were just at an event prior to this, so that holiday smell, like the Christmas tree smell, every time I smell it, it just makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. So, yeah. Coming up to that season.
My name is Jonna Noble, and I have to say that my favorite smell, as cheesy as it sounds, and I'm totally not I'm like this big mama's girl, but any kind of a fragrance that reminds me of my mother's perfume, and that feeling of like remembering, like crawling up next to her and just smelling her. I love that.
Hi, my name is Kitty Coy, and my favorite scent has got to be frankincense.
Oh, nice.
Wow, I'm out of this world.
I'm glad I'm sitting next to them. Let's see, my name is Ellen Malcolm Moore, and I guess, what's my favorite scents? Well, back in the day, it would have been, ganja and brownies and shame.
Or hookers and cocaine, that was it.
Yeah, but I guess, what do I like now? I guess I like bergamot?
Yeah.
Go for it. That sounds good. That thing. I like that thing. And it is kind of, yours is not cheesy, but mine is kind of cheesy. I do really like the way the back of my boyfriend's neck smells.
Yeah.
Just saying. It doesn't smell like shame.
Olfactory.
My name is Catherine.
And I would say my favorite scent is roasted chicken.
Oh.
Yeah, that's nice.
How can anybody top that?
What?
How can anybody top that? Roasted chicken.
I
know. Fried chicken. That'd be
Our friend.
My name is Nina, and listening to all yours, they sound great. And I have lots of favorite scents, but I'm gonna go with the smell of the ocean. Yeah,
That's a good one.
that one.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Any ocean in particular, or just the?
Right now, the one that's I'm thinking of is just looking out on the coast of California, so Spanish Bay. That's what comes to mind. So yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
My name is Diamond, and I really like the smell after it rains.
Oh,
Yes. Very good.
Great one.
I'm Tiana Thomas. I like the smell of pumpkin spice.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Too.
Who doesn't? Yeah, yeah.
I'm Mia Voss, and I'm going with definitely Post Rain. It's amazing. There's nothing like it. Peppermint and vanilla.
Classics.
Classic.
Gosh, I'm Tanya, by the way.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, this is Tanya's
Yes.
space. Thank you
Yeah,
so
nice
much.
to meet you. Yeah. You're welcome. Anytime you guys want to have anything, we're always here for you. Yep. So this is a tough one because I love smells. So, and the hippie in me, I love Nag Champa. Like I love Nag Champa incense. Like I light it when I walk in the. It just makes it's a very particular incense, and it's just and it just makes me feel like I'm home. And then lilies, of course, mixed in with that.
Roland?
Yeah, I want to know. Yeah.
Okay. I'm Roland, and I think I'm just thinking about this. Right now, my favorite smell I think is the horses. Yeah, just driving out, getting out of the car, and the smell of the barn, the smell of the ranch.
Get in here.
Yeah, and my name's Charlie, and let's say it's kind of topic like fresh cut wood, or just leather.
Yeah.
So I was like, he's so masculine. All right, so I'm Ashley. I told you that. My favorite smells gardenias. The flowers, they don't have them out here so much, but they smell amazing. And lavender. Those are my favorites. What?
I said lovely.
Yeah, it is. Very. So,
Should we jump in?
yeah, what we were curious about, or one thing that we talked about, is wanting to hear what drew you all to this event tonight. Especially those of you we don't know.
Yeah.
I heard a lot about Eventbrite. I was like, Eventbrite.
Yeah.
Eventbrite.
Yeah.
Eventbrite.
But there's still a thought beyond that.
Yeah. So if anyone's comfortable, just
sharing.
what drew you here about the topic that we're going to talk about tonight?
When I saw your post, I had just spent the last 15 minutes feeling really bad about myself. Because I'm trying to learn how to do a bunch of new things on social media. And I don't, well, it's not my favorite medium. I'd rather read a book. So I get frustrated a lot, and then I feel like there's probably something inside that I don't know if I'm ever going to connect with it the way some people do. And
Sure.
yeah, and
It is.
It's a
It
lot of
it's
work.
a ton of work, and so I think just so after seeing your post, I sort of kept track for the rest of the week about how often I was feeling either average or good about myself or less than.
Yeah.
And I noticed it was more less than I would have guessed, because in general I think I'm a pretty confident person, but there was a lot more less than I expected.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been reading interestingly enough, a book called The Ultimate Confidence. And in what I do and just in myself, I find that I struggle a lot with confidence, even though I too think that my confidence level is good, or the perception of other people to my confidence is good. And then as I've been reading this book, I'm like, oh, yeah, those are things I need to work on. So I thought, how how this worked so perfectly when you sent me the invite. I was like, yeah. I mean, and I know so many people that are struggling with the same things, just in their own individual ways. I thought this was great. I'm excited to hear more.
Thanks, thank you.
I was on Eventbrite.
Yeah.
And the topic interested me because I've just been going through a lot lately. I went to go see a psychologist for the first time earlier this week, and we have another meeting next week. And so it's weird to like let people in, but I'm working on it. So
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yay.
Very brave.
Glad you're
Very
here.
brave.
Very brave. Yeah.
How many of you didn't know these guys?
Good.
That's
Yeah.
really
Pretty
really
cool.
fascinating. Do you guys ever do? There's another area because I don't even think to go on Eventbrite. Like I have
No.
no idea.
I don't
Yeah. Another platform would be like Meetup, right? That is really big with people and doing events. But I think it takes a lot of nerve and a lot of balls to get out in front of people that you don't know or go to things that you don't know who's hosting it.
Yeah.
And you know how cool and impactful that just the words and the verbiage and the way that you guys explain things moved more than half the room to come here. That's really impressive. And really impressive that you guys came. You know, that's it says a lot about people wanting to grow and learn more about themselves and be around women who are like-minded.
One, I would add, it's already an act in confidence.
Yeah,
Right? Like,
it is.
like just it's an act of confidence then seeing something about people you've never met before, a topic that interests you, and being brave enough to come and try something new. I mean, just that is an act of confidence, taking that risk, right? So, thanks for coming. Yeah. Should we talk? And, well, does anyone else want to share? Oh, yeah. Or were we sorry, complete on that?
I'll share it. Please go ahead.
Oh, sure. So I just was gonna say, you know, in the business realm, and having to do all of the networking and handshaking and meets and greets, and just really putting myself out there to promote business and develop business, I have been finding that I, a lot of times, feel that pullback and that withdrawal more than I was ever aware that I would, if that makes sense. So Melissa invited me, and immediately I was drawn and said, yes, I do want to go to that, because I have noticed that I am a fairly extroverted person, but I find myself pulling inward and not wanting to someone that or engage in conversation for maybe as long as they want, or and it's just I've noticed that it's oftentimes, you know, that comparison of looking around the room to see who else is there and how I fit into that, or I feel like I don't fit in.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I just wanted to share really quick. You know, I kind of follow you on Facebook or on social media in general, and I have 3 daughters, a wife, 3 granddaughters, and you know, so I've spent a lot of time watching the women.
That's why he can be here.
But I love every time I see you put something up about this stop comparing yourself to other people, and I think it's cool. I've never really seen it out there in this way, and so I told Tanya, you know, I've told you several times, like, hey, I really like what Ashley's doing.
And then when you reached out about the event, you know, of course we were like, yeah, which I want to just stop. I think you should go get Nikki and bring her down here.
I asked her to come down. I'm
I
gonna go
think
grab
she
her.
should be a part of it and lock the door.
Okay.
And if somebody needs to knock, they'll knock. But his daughter is here, and she just, you know, as a young woman, it's important to be surrounded around people that are sharing.
Totally.
And for me, like Roland had been talking a lot, because he was watching more than I was watching, because I have been so busy with. Okay, that's not me. I've been so busy with everything that it's hard. Like I don't spend. Is that you?
That's mine.
Got it.
That was rude of me.
Yeah, a little bit. That's your car. You better go get it. This is Nicole. Nicole. You know, I think like for me, it really resonated with what you were doing, because I used to be really just outward. Like I wanted to promote and network with a bunch of people and tell them like, look what I'm doing. Like come, almost in a way selling myself, right? And what I don't love about that is I want to connect in a really deep, like raw, real, authentic way with people. Because when we go to these typical networking events, it's all about like, okay, I want to make sure Mia knows what I do. And a lot of times we don't listen to what people are going through. And if you really listen to other people, you learn and you grow a lot more than when you're sitting and talking about yourself all the time, right? So going to events with new people, it's easy. And I'm gonna speak for myself as a woman, I make myself small and I avoid things a lot, right? And so I like to create relationships and networks with people, of real relationships. And it's not about me selling your business, it's about me just having a large network of really incredible people that have the best interest of everyone in their business. Like, I don't have any interest in selling any of you to come here. You just, if you find somebody that loves the space, or if you end up loving the space, or you just
It's like
connect.
my 4th event here, so
Yeah.
she really means it.
That's like how it all this whole thing unfolded so naturally too. Like it was very
Over
easy
lunch.
to put it together. Yes,
She's
over
like, I know
lunch and
somebody.
yeah.
And
Like
we
it
don't
was
charge.
so
We just want to bring people together. That's what this is all about. And I think when you get out of that like traditional networking of like, I gotta sell, it's like build relationships with people, and all of a sudden your network of people, they're not just business relationships, they're personal relationships that you can call on, and then they just naturally share, and your life, your business just naturally grows.
I call it billboarding.
Yeah.
Like if you're at these networking events, you're just like a giant billboard. So you're not even listening to anybody, and that's so not you. So
yeah, I want to be like, what are you doing? Tell me about you.
You get
Well,
excited.
It's fun, you know.
Going off what you said, the reason I really love the scent smell question for an icebreaker, as opposed to, you saw around the room, somebody said the smell of rain. Yes. Oh yeah, like it's universal. We all smell things. We all connect, and it's in our sensory, and it's emotional. It might be memories, like your mother. So it's not going around the room saying, so what do you do? Right? So it's instantly a more authentic human connection,
I like it.
rather than just saying, so what brought you here? What's your business or work? Right?
Isn't that weird that English is the only language where you say I am a, and it's your profession? There's no other, in French it's I have a, it's not I am a. That's the first thing we ask people, what are you? I am a, this thing I do.
Us crazy Americans.
I know.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
For many reasons.
Yes. Not our topic tonight.
Yes.
Because 2 days later. Sneak out.
So, anyone else before we move forward want to share? Okay. I think we're good. Okay. Yeah. Well, part of, I know that coming up, Ashley and I both want to share some personal stories of how confidence has shown up or been a challenge in our own life, which is going to be a good segue to what we really want you to leave with tonight, and kind of both of our takeaways, both universally and then for each of our specific expertise. And our main expertise is we want you to leave tonight with at least a little nugget, or hopefully a change in the resources that you have for yourself, as far as feeling like you have another resource in your tool bag to help with this internal, external, and to help with what Ellen said about comparison and feeling less than. So we both have, I think that's our ultimate goal for you tonight. Do you want to add to that?
No, I think the biggest thing that you said that comes to mind is adding more to your toolkit, because we discussed this, we don't ever come to a place where, okay, I'm confident and that's it. That's it, I'm confident now. We're
done.
Very strong, like I have strong confidence in the health and fitness arena. In business, I've had to build my confidence a lot in speaking to groups in different ways. Like this is very comfortable to me on a stage in front of 300 people. I'm like, whoa. So it's any time, and somebody touched on it, I don't remember if it was Ellen or Nina, when you were sharing what drew you here, it's any time we're trying something new is when our confidence is like tested. And so it's being able to tap into tools and resources that we have, or being able to translate those tools and resources from other areas where we feel strongly. So I think that's the biggest thing. Totally, and Ashley just set me up so well. So thank you.
We didn't plan that.
We didn't. I told her one of my strong mantras in life, both personally and professionally, is flexibility within structure. So I need an outline down here, but we're just kind of rolling with it too, because I don't want to be too rigid. Anyway, so she set me up well. So I want to share in the part that I really connected to and I see a lot with the clients that I work with and is really fundamental to the program that I've created called Core Confidence, is that you're never done, right? Like, working on your confidence isn't something that you work through, you get tips, tools, and then check, I'm confident and I never need to work on that anymore. So just as Ashley said, you know, both personally and professionally, my specialty is working on confidence. And so I want to share a story. I'm going to be a little vulnerable here. Ashley said it would be okay if I did this.
Because I love vulnerability.
So
I've learned to love it.
You've learned to love it. But part of how this has shown up in my life, you know, clearly, so, you know, I'm a psychologist. I work a lot with clients on confidence, anxiety, and I've seen a correlation that when we're more anxious or fearful, we tend to be less confident. And when we're less confident, we tend to have more fears and worries about ourselves and the world and others. So part of kind of my program on core confidence and helping people with confidence and self-esteem is how do we develop that in a way that then we can be less fearful and anxious. But again, back to the premise of we're never done. So this is something I've worked on personally. You know, I work a lot sometimes with students, supervising, training therapists, psychologists, and they'll always say, well, what should I specialize in? And I say, you're thinking too hard. Your specialty, you don't necessarily choose it, it chooses you, right? And that's what confidence did for me. It's my specialty because I've had to work a whole lot on it myself. And that woman over there, Miss Ellen's, helped me a lot with it. So, anyway, my story this summer, so I've worked on my confidence. I most of the time feel pretty darn good. And then this summer, I have 2 little boys. They keep me really active. We're at the pool, and I'm at the pool, and I'm like walking around, and I also want to celebrate and share. I turned 40 this year. Yeah, very excited. And I had not worn a bikini since having my first son 7 years ago. I was rocking the one piece and the tankini, which is fine if that's what you wear. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I was like, this is the summer I wear a bikini again. And it didn't matter what my body looked like. I didn't do any crazy fat diets. I didn't deprive. I was like, I'm wearing a bikini. I love, has anyone seen the meme or the premise? Do you want a bikini body? Okay, go to the store and buy a bikini. You have a bikini body. Like, that's what I believe in. So anyway, this was my summer of bikini. I'm turning 40, so I was wearing a bikini. And anyway, we're at the pool, and then all of a sudden I look over and I see a group of gals, and I'm like, oh, wow, they look awesome. I do not look like that in my bikini. And then I realized, you're gonna laugh at me, I realized I'm like, oh, they're in high school. I'm not kidding, but my brain, my initial thought was, oh my gosh, these women, and I like these girls, these ladies, these women, they look so much better in their bikini than I do over here. And I was like, yeah, they're 16. Right. You're 40, like, and have 2 babies, you know. But that's where so I wanted to share that. I do all this work. I specialize in working with clients on confidence, and to me, you're never done. That was my moment of like, oh, I'm less than. I'm not good enough.
Do you think that people believe, people who come to you, do they believe that confidence is something you are either born with? Do people think there's a natural, I'm not phrasing this well.
I know what you're
asking. Is it something you're supposed to build, or is it something you just come with? And are there people who come into the world with higher confidence?
So I do believe it's a myth that people are either born with confidence or not, right? And that is a myth. Now, of course, we all have, strengths, weaknesses, challenges. So sure, some people might be predisposed to be having a little hair. I mean, it's complex and complicated. You're asking, do you want me to go into like people's Freudian childhood experiences? Because we could go there if you want, but that's another talk. But I do believe it's a myth that you don't have to be born with confidence, and it's not something you either have or don't have. You know, confidence this is my favorite phrase. You set me up, Ellen, thank you. It's learnable, adjustable, and capable of reconnection. And so what I mean, especially the reconnection, and this might set you up later.
Yeah, you are. Keep going.
Okay. But, you know, one of my most thus far in life and this journey, you know, was after having my first son. One of my biggest challenges was I lost my confidence. I struggle with postpartum depression and anxiety. And so both internally and externally I changed. And so that was my hard season. And I lost it. I was not in a good place for a year or two after having my first son. And so, but I was before. So I had to reconnect. I had to find it again. So we can learn how to be confident. We can adjust it. And we can also reconnect when we've lost it. And maybe an injury, maybe certain things happen in life that challenge our confidence. Maybe you were saying a new business venture, you know, connecting in a new way. All those are going to challenge us to grow to a new level. Did I answer that question?
Can I just only because I've been reading this book. There's a segment in the beginning of this chapter is that we're born not with an innate confidence, but we're born with this idea that we don't know any different than other than we are what we are, and we're great, we belong, we this, we're praised, this, that, and the other. And it's not until we get into this, you know, primary schooling where we start to have these challenges and people are challenging you or treating you differently, and then you start to have less and less confidence as we get older, because when you start walking, your parents are happy and this, that, and the other, and you're doing good and nothing can go wrong. And then you start going into primary school and people are different, you know, and then we start judging ourselves. And that's a big thing that, you know, I was struggling with, and I was reading this, I was like, wow, this is really interesting, because we don't think about that. As we get older, we become more cognizant of, oh my gosh, what have I done with my life? I'm getting ready to turn 39, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know. And when I was younger, I didn't think about any of those things, you know. And now it's so different, you know. And for a long time I thought, is it just me? Is it my own thing? Am I alone? And I feel as I'm listening to you and this and the other that I'm not as alone as I thought. And confidence can be rebuilt and restructured and all this as I'm learning, and I think it's fascinating because we need that. As we judge ourselves so harshly, you know. In my line of work, everybody judges themselves, and I have to deal with anxiety of theirs, and I have to overcome that, and it's hard, and it's hard on me because I empathize so much with these people, and I'm just like, how do I help with confidence? And that's something I think that everybody struggles with.
Yeah,
it's rough.
In a silo too, right?
Sure.
We're all going through it like at the same time, but
and nobody talks about it. I feel like it's like this, like, shh, don't talk. I'm great. I'm perfect.
they all think we talk a shit ton,
right?
And we do, but we're not talking about that.
So true.
Talking about something else.
true.
We're talking about everything else, but
So
this
true.
is back to moving back. That's social media.
Yes.
Yep.
I agree.
That's social media.
Well, and I think Ashley saw my post. She was like, you did a post in your bikini on your 40th birthday, didn't you?
She did.
And I was like, I did. But a little like, do I do that? Do I post a picture of myself in a swimsuit? Am I that person? But I did, because
That was something for you.
it was more about me.
Than it was
And-
about anybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And half the time we look back at our pictures and we're like, what was I complaining about? I look fantastic.
Yeah.
And then you're like, but in that moment, it wasn't enough. It wasn't, and we, you know, and I guess I'm just gonna speak for myself, but yeah, you know, I'm heavier than I've been in a really long time, and your whole thing about like I am where I'm supposed to be right now, and it's okay, and like I can still feel beautiful where I'm at, and I'm the only one that can change it, and I'm excited to hear your story too, because I don't really know it.
Yeah.
And what brought you to this whole place?
I want to point out first, or make the distinction. So when you shared your story, you were looking at something external, which is just like social media, and then judging yourself. And then Nina, you set me up really well. I wanted to share something about that internal judgment, that goes on. So as you would imagine with health and fitness, a lot of the people I see, whether they're experiencing an injury or health challenge, and a health challenge can be anything from migraines to, you know, you're just not where you want to be. You're not feeling like yourself. There is a lot of, because of the diet and exercise industry, how it is set up, there is a lot of judgment, punishment, restriction, and control that goes on with our food, with our body, and that is the biggest thing, I think, with the body judgment. Judging, you know, where I used to be to where I am today, which you touched on. I think a lot of times I see when people are injured, it's, I used to be able to do this and now I can't. Or just in general, I need to do this perfectly. It needs to be done this certain way. And there's honestly no specific way, unless you're training for something specific. Yes, there is a strategy that goes into all of this. There's not a right way or a wrong way to do things. But we have that judgment within ourselves of right and wrong, good or bad. And so since my area of expertise is health and fitness, and it's not been, and I've been injured a ton, that's not been the area where I've struggled a lot with judgment. Where I've struggled a lot with judgment or comparing myself to a past version is a lot more around, because when you go through a struggle, you're not the same person anymore. And so you have new idea, you've gone through something, you have new ideas, new experiences, and so everyone always talks about, I want to go back to that person or go back to that experience, but you don't really go back. And so for me, it's been creating, and something I help people do is to create this whole new identity for themselves. So my confidence was totally rocked in being able to distinguish my ideas versus other people's, you know, maybe what my parents told me about myself or what other people told me about myself or what I once knew about myself was like no longer true. So you're kind of always looking back at that and comparing to that, like, is this me, is this not me? And it's kind of this, I want to do this robotic walk with it because it's what comes up. You're like, who am I? And so the confidence piece is like, the more and more I step into, and we do this all throughout life as we evolve and learn and grow, it's becoming who you are. It's this sense of becoming, and that's where I think confidence can get rocked a lot of times. So that is my experience with it.
So you're saying my belly after having an emergency C-section and carrying almost a 10-pound baby, it was okay that my stomach wasn't the same?
Yeah.
I had a 10-pound baby.
I think pregnancy is like a super good example. Like even,
sorry for the overshare.
No, I think it's a good example of we all go through transitions, seasons in life, and we like to think of how many women who get pregnant, have a baby, and they're so happy about it, but then they feel terrible about their bodies, like immediately afterwards, and you just had a baby. And so, and that just goes to show how much our culture speaks to
Right there.
what we're all experiencing.
I was just gonna say that.
Needing to be a certain way, look a certain way, especially if you're a woman.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just getting like chill bumps right now.
Yeah. Well, you're right about media. I mean, it's not all about women having babies, because some of us choose that journey and some of us do not. So it shows up in different ways. But there's a difference of, I can think of somebody in my world that posted 6 weeks, I'm back on my pre-maternity jeans, and mine took me a year. Like, you know, so there's an immediate comparison. Why was my journey a year and hers was 6 weeks, you know? Like, that can make you feel less than. But there's a lot of things that can make you feel less than. So let's get to the meat.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why we can help this.
Yeah.
Do you want to start us off with the inner athlete? I think you go first.
Oh, okay.
And then I interathlete.
Okay.
Because I think I will do that.
This is the flexibility.
Yeah.
I think on the outline it was you, but I'll roll with it, Ashley.
I mean, I think, I don't know, I have a feeling like you should go first.
I will go
That's
first.
just my feeling.
Okay. So I want to talk. So I've developed a program, and I'm not going to go through all that. It's called Core Confidence, and Core is an acronym. And at its most basic level, Core stands for creation, orientation, reconnection, and excelling. Okay? And there's a whole bunch of stuff all with that. We don't have time for that. I'm going to give you a little nugget of Core tonight. And the nugget I want to talk about that is the overlap with the inner athlete is orientation. And so what that means, the second step of my core program is orienting yourself to the internal versus external, which is exactly what we're going to talk about. It's the idea that confidence, I see this so much in the office or when I'm working with clients one-on-one. It's that we put our internal self-worth, we could use these interchangeably, self-worth, confidence, self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves, comfortability, we put it in an external entity rather than an internal place. So let me just give you a few concrete examples, because here's what I often see. It's the idea or concept that we won't feel good about ourselves till we weigh a certain number on the scale. It's that we look for this external thing to define who we are. For some people, it's how much money we have in the bank. I won't be okay until I have this much money in savings, right? Or I have a director in front of my name and my title. So it's this external thing. For a lot of people, it may be relationships, right? I am not worthy of something unless I'm married or partnered, or at least until I find somebody else. Then I'll know I'm okay and worth something. So I don't know if it's jumped out, everything I listed, money in your bank account, jobs, partners, all these things are in the external world. And you know what? They change. Unfortunately, can we control them? Not completely. So they're external entities that we really do not have within our locus of control. Unfortunately, relationships change sometimes. Sometimes jobs change, we get laid off, we have to move across the country, right? So it's really a slippery slope when we put our self-worth and confidence in an external entity that we can't control. So look at, to me, that's really what the core is. And then back to why we're here talking about social media. Do you put your worth into how many followers you have on Instagram? Do you put your, hopefully not, but do you put your worth into how many likes you're getting on a post, right? Do you put your worth into, well, this person seems to do this. Look at how they're good doing in their business on social media, but I'm here, right? They have 600 followers. I have 3, or I don't know. I'm brainstorming out loud. But my point is that it's always risky, right? And so that means you're putting all your livelihood, your self-worth, confidence into this external factor that you can't control. So that's why people show up in my office when they've lost a job or they've divorced, and then they say to me, I'm worth nothing. And I say, actually, you're worth everything. But the risky part is you put all of yourself into someone else. So, yes.
I saw y'all familiar with the Netflix show Follow This? Has anyone seen
I'm
that?
not. No.
Really interesting stuff, just like little 20, 30-minute segments about technology and how it's affecting social culture. And there was a really great study where it's about teenage kids that are trying to get unaddicted from video games. And the psychology demonstrated that every time someone likes a post, every time someone follows you, it actually releases dopamine in the brain that is very similar to what you would get from flirtation, alcohol, smoking,
cocaine,
literally the same. Cocaine, my favorite drug, of course. And I mean, just seriously. And I couldn't believe that.
It's true.
And I thought about it. I'm like, does that really affect me on a chemical level?
Yes.
To see someone like or comment something, and how much is that? How much am I writing that on a certain day?
Yeah.
How much of that drug is in my body on a certain day, or anyone's body on a certain day, because that dopamine's hitting like that.
And what's scary about that is we're replacing this.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah.
And that's what's the scariest thing with our kids.
Yep.
And that's what, like, you know, you were talking about, was it social media? You were talking about social media thing. Like, I can't even imagine what it must take to put yourself out. Like, that's your business, but it's got to be hard.
I actually make money on that.
Yeah, you make money.
Like my business is based on being an influencer.
Yeah,
And even I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard.
That's the first step.
Yeah,
that is why
I'm just gonna release all that. Like that's literally in some ways how I make money. But even that, I want to go to the authentic piece of it too.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do because it's hard to break out of that because everybody else is following that tide.
Yeah.
They're tied down to that. I'm like, I'm not
You have
buying that shit.
to work. You have to like physically and mentally work to have connections with people in today's day and age. Because you could watch this and be like, I was there.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you
And,
weren't really
and I
there.
call it, you know,
You
like
weren't
a
there.
bridge. Like it's literally time
Come
to the
next
bridge
time.
from that of hiding from the getting under an umbrella and not being in that camera. And I think it's so important too of like just getting that mindset of like nobody's looking. I don't have to be something. I don't have to do that whole thing. So you just take a deep breath. I love it. You're like it's
breathe.
You just exhale. So and that's how I feel too. It's an exhaling.
I think that there's even and I don't know. Maybe it's a topic for another night, but I think so many people are craving so much more that people are starting to go, like, even though it's there all the time, there are people that are going away from it and spending less and less time around it, and it makes you better.
I think that's true though for a certain age category.
Yes.
And I say that because I have a coworker who she's 20, I don't know, 22, 23, and it's almost it's heartbreaking to see how she posts things Facebook because most everybody uses that platform, and it's sickening to watch how she uses a filter for these selfies, and I won't like it. I see it because it comes up on my feed. I won't like it, but she'll get all these likes.
And she's filtering at 22.
No, I know, but that's the thing.
Like,
This age group,
literally
this
30
age
years
group
old.
is like
I'm like
focused on what she's getting from this, and I see this, and I'm like, you're beautiful who you are if you stop that.
But they haven't grown up with
No,
that
they
authenticity.
haven't, but it's so hurtful to see. Like it literally breaks my heart because I see her going through all these things, but she's sitting here constantly putting these things on her feed, and it's like, that is not you. I do not see you look like that ever, even on your best day. And it's sad because she'll do things to make her look great, but that you can tell like she's like chiseled her chin and blah blah blah, and it really makes me sick. This media, because it's not who we don't post who we really are for the most part, and then we start talking about comparison.
Yes.
We're comparing ourselves to what? To fake
nothing.
bullshit.
Sure.
Because we've got filters and this is my life in a picture.
Yeah.
We all know that's bullshit. You know?
Well, so essentially, what is she doing? She's looking for something else outside herself, externally, to validate.
That's only for cars.
No, absolutely. But the problem is then you have this person who's so mentally, like, fucked. And I'm sorry, but it's true because she's actually seeing mental health, and she's not getting better. Like, she's not doing anything to help herself, and I don't know how to help her.
That's going to be a detox, like you were talking about with
With social media.
But you just have to get away. It's the road of
Well, there's more and more 12-step recovery systems now. Rehab centers are paying for and funding 12-step recovery for both social media and technology.
That's crazy shit, though. Oh my god.
Yeah. And
That's
so
crazy.
just imagine doing your first step. I'm powerless over social media. Just imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter and her boyfriend are both influencers, and the boyfriend is in therapy on antidepressants because of that pressure.
Are they in their 20s?
They're both 18.
18.
Almost
It
18,
is.
not even 18.
I have to say, I love that people in their teens and 20s are at least admitting it.
Yeah.
Because I have to say, in 30s, 40s, 50s, they would rather just tie something around their leg and just choke than to admit that. So, but I can't imagine.
I just like to hear their stories and to hear so the boy has been an influencer since he was 14. So this is 4 years later, where he's got this reliable income happening because of to the point to where he shooed off college and said, I am not going to college and I don't need to further myself. Why would I do that when I have this and all I have to do is be the latest greatest thing?
That's all.
That's all. No, the rest of my life.
It's honestly the same version of what was in the 60s and the 70s with being like the people that put out albums and like the magazine cover folks. It's the same version of it. Like they're just kind of
different incarnation.
It is.
Yeah. So this is not, we're talking about social media, but I love what you just said, Mia, that as far as it's just taken a new form, right? This isn't new. This isn't new that we're putting our worth or confidence into an external entity. It's just given the chapter that we're at in our world, it's coming, social media is highlighting. Very much.
And I think it's very human.
Yes.
To compare yourself to other people. It gives you contrast to see I am this, I am not that. It gives us contrast, but it's when it goes to the extreme of you're always putting it on external versus developing, and yes, it takes work, developing the internal.
It is.
It does.
And I'm going to mention one thing and it's ironic I'm saying this because I don't have children, but I would say motherhood has got to be the toughest job on social media.
Yes.
Because I went through, and I can't imagine, because that's the one thing where everybody says you should.
Yeah.
And so I'm 53, I don't have children, but I went through not having, I married somebody who couldn't have kids in my 30s, it was before social media. And the pressure I went through of everybody wanting to know, why don't you have kids? You explain to me why you're so happy not having. It pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah.
But I was okay with I'm okay.
Sure.
I'm good. But it was so interesting, the pressure. So I can't imagine going through that pressure, having the kids, going through postpartum, going through your body image, and then having to the social media's got to be the toughest, I think, for moms. More than anything, I'm just going to say. I'm just gonna put that out there. And this is again, and I want to,
So we're in our 20s, and I honestly feel like.
Thank you, 20s.
I feel like it's really the most pressure on our generation.
Yes.
Because like the thing now to have is like D-cup breast, like a 28-inch waist, and like 45.
Really?
Hips.
That's not
Still?
Still?
I'm
like, still? We're doing this still. Come on.
Stop. If you don't have the Kylie Jenner puberty, then like,
oh my gosh, I forgot about that. You're right.
It's really sad. And when I was in high school, I deleted my Instagram because I wasn't getting enough likes. I felt like, and I just felt like, everybody else is getting likes, all these other girls in school, so I deleted it, and I haven't had it back since.
Good
stat. But I just now opened up back to Facebook, and so I have started posting stuff more often, and now it doesn't matter what likes I get. I post it for me.
Yes.
That's awesome. Gosh, I love to hear that.
Yeah, I love to hear that. Thank you so much for sharing, because that's what it's about, right? It's not about what we get back, right? And like, to me, confidence too is taking risk. It's what I said earlier. Like, all of you that showed up tonight, that was an act of confidence. And so just as you rejoining, not worrying about the likes as much, I was like, I'm posting in bikini. This is being vulnerable. To me though, I have to practice what I preach. This is an act of confidence to do this. I don't have a flat tummy, but here we go. Like, let's do this. And I think the one I want to we want to give those tips and takeaways. So I'm going to shift to that because in talking, one strategy to deal with this external, internal, right? We have to let go of looking at the external world, likes, followers, money in our bank account, whatever number it says on the scale, because this all shows up for us in other ways, whether you choose to have children or not, you're married, things like that. So we have to let go of that, and that is a whole process in and of itself. But part is a shift, and you've kind of already done that, is what you're saying. You shifted, you realize, this is not helping me, it's hurting me. So you let go of something that was hurting you to rediscover something that could help, right? And one way to do that is to stop basing your confidence on the external and look at something internal. So I'm gonna give you a little tip. When I tell you this, I'm not gonna like expect that magically, oh, Melissa, I've changed. It's changed my whole world. But you know, we want to think, we're going to do a little basic math for a minute. I promise it'll be simple. Don't get math phobic on me. You know, so I do this trick. I love mantras. And so one mantra that could just be a little nugget of how we can all use this for ourselves is to think of a constant number. So for example, we're getting really complex, so get ready. If I have a 1 and an equal sign, what comes on the other side? 1. Yes. See, I told you we'd keep it basic. So 1 equals 1, right? A constant. Do you remember a constant number? A constant doesn't change, right? That's really how we want to think about our self-worth and confidence, right? So Mia equals 1. Tiana equals 1. Ashley equals 1. Whether you get 0 likes on your post, whether you have $100,000 in your bank account, or you have $1, okay? Whether you're married or you're not. Okay, so I tell clients, think of your self-worth, your internal livelihood, not being dependent on what is going on out here, and it is a constant. It does not change. So all of us, just put your name, replace the first 1 with your name. Melissa equals 1, no matter what, right? No matter what's happening in my life, I am worth something, right? Because so that means it's constant. It's internally based, and it doesn't shift. Sure, do we all have bad days? Yeah, a bad day is gonna happen, but it doesn't have to take away from your self-worth. You shared, sorry, for example, like you're heavier than you'd like to be right now. That doesn't affect your confidence or self-worth, right? It's the idea that no matter what, and some critique that so I'll go on that example, a lot of clients will say, well, what if I make a goal? And say somebody's working on their body image, and they'll often say, well, if I have a goal for myself to lose 10 pounds, let's say, am I not allowed to feel good about losing 10 pounds? And I say, no, that's not what I'm saying here. It's not about not feeling good about maybe if you want to lose weight. The difference is you equate your self-worth on making a goal and achieving it, not on looking at it, oh, I'm this number. Now I'm allowed to feel okay, right? And so do you see the difference between those two? And that's when we shift from the external to the internal, right? It's not lost on me that, I don't know if people are aware of this, I've had actually 2 family members that have had gastric bypass surgery and have had like over 100-pound weight loss. And you have to be psychologically evaluated, and you have to go through a lot of therapy before and after, because people will have remarkable weight loss and it doesn't change their self-esteem or confidence, right? Because it's not externally based. Confidence is not about a number on a scale or a like on a post. It's internal. So that's how we can shift it. We're going to come back to this when we wrap up the end, and I'm going to give you another tool about how to deal with this with social media. Yes? No,
I like that. All right,
Go.
I will go. So what I see a lot, and we touched on it with the I Am, and we touched on it with work, and especially with people who are active and then become injured, there is this sense of loss of identity. Like when we put our identity so strongly in our work or in our social media or in being an active person, and now we can't do that, or something changes, then we feel really bad about ourselves. What I want to do, so there's these cards on the table. I want you to grab one of those. Yeah, do you want your own? I wrote all over mine.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I shared that the diet and exercise, health and fitness industry is this external being out there who tries to direct us into how we should be thinking about our body, caring about our body, and everything about our body. And if you look at, and I posed this question at the top, who's the boss of your body? Because a lot of times when I come into contact with clients or potential clients, they're super frustrated with themselves and they're super frustrated with their bodies. But as Melissa shared, when we're putting our worth on the external, it's hard, or a number on the scale, and our weight loss, then it makes it really impossible to see or hear what beliefs might be underneath that are, because that's just an external symptom of what's going on internally that we may not be aware of. And it's usually your belief systems, your values. Things are not matching up there. So people are typically frustrated with themselves, with their bodies. They don't feel like themselves, and they just know, they don't know what to do. And a lot of times, so if you think about the diet and exercise industry as a cultural compass, so it's based on, you know, whatever they decide is the latest, greatest thing. This is what you should be doing. There's no room for you in that and your unique needs. So think of somebody who's been injured or has a health challenge, their unique needs, your unique desires, where you are starting from in the process. It doesn't take anything of that into consideration. So there's no internal compass. It's all external. So when you, at some point in life, when you come up against a challenge, you may have to look at, okay, am I putting all my value into that? You know, maybe I am so stressed out, I have a heart issue, or I gain so much weight. And that's usually when we start looking at our health. It's not beforehand. But in creating a relationship with what I call your inner athlete, so the part of you that wants to feel energetic, alive, and strong, and that is connected more internally than externally. So external things are just tools that we can choose to use or not use, yet a lot of time we think we need to be using them, and it shows up in if you look at the flame on the body obsession effect, that's your cultural compass. It shows up with, and what I mean by intellectual or societal norms is that it's an idea of the mind and not an idea of the body. Like we're stuck with an idea in our mind that we're supposed to do things a certain way. And when we can't do them that way, or if it doesn't fit well for us, then I'm either gonna do nothing, or it's either nothing, it's extremes that I see with people. I'm either all or nothing, or I beat my body up in a way, and usually that's with extreme exercise, that I can feel good about myself. So putting worth there. A lot of time, what?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ashley.
No, interrupt me, I'm talking a lot.
One of the things that you got me to pay attention to was that there's something in some of the body positive stuff.
Yeah.
It can be just as destructive. And
Yes.
I like that, because you could be looking at someone who's beating themselves up to death with exercise and dieting.
Yes.
You could be looking at someone who's extremely overweight to a very unhealthy degree.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to endorse that also.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that one is more beautiful or the other, but they're both
Yeah.
an idea
Yeah.
that deny the reality of the body.
Yes.
And the inner athlete, which is about healthy and alive.
Yes.
Which is what the body wants.
Yes.
But the idea in the head now has taken over that reality. Almost as if you don't really have a body. You're just thinking about the body. I thought that was fascinating, because you were the first person I ever heard point that out, and I was like, whoa. And it really changed how it, not that I looked negatively at all the body positive stuff, of course not. But the very extreme versions of it, I'm like, wow. Yeah.
The very interesting thing about the body positive and not respecting how all these things, I don't think their underlying intention of it is bad or wrong.
No.
But what it typically does, or what the conversations that I end up hearing from people are that, oh, if I just love myself more, then I'll feel better about my body. But in a sense, that gets people into that judgment of when I don't feel so great about myself, or I don't feel like myself because I don't really like this extra weight, or whatever you want to fill in the blank with, that judgment is an underlying player there. And so then the conversation or the narrative in the person's mind is, oh, if I just love myself more, I just need to love myself more.
Yeah.
And that doesn't get you where you want to be. It also, I think it gets you settling. I think it really gets you settling, and you're giving your power. One thing that I was thinking about when you were talking, you're giving your power away. You're not taking the power to make it mean something to you. You know, if you look at the other side of the coin, you know, if you're in a fight, I usually frame it as you're in a fight with yourself and your body, whatever that looks like for you. Everyone's, you know, story there or narrative there is a little different. But when you're in this fight, then it's really hard for you because you're telling that same story over and over again. So you can't move forward because you're not creating a new story. And that's where the new identity piece comes into it. That's where the idea of, you know, not just your physical experience in your body being active, but your physical life experience can completely change when you take the responsibility and ownership for all of your choices. For, you know, it's a choice when go now.
I don't want to interrupt.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say it is a responsibility, because I'm also in a place right now, because I've been putting more focus on my business, that I'm not working out. I used to get myself lost in exercise because I enjoy it so much. It's easy for me. But now that I'm putting more focus on, you know, working my business, so maybe I'm only working out 3 days a week instead of 5. Even though I still feel good, yeah, I have a little extra weight in some places that I don't want there, but I can make that distinction for myself that that's the choice that I'm making. And when I want to, or when I feel ready to, because I don't have this other focus, that I can get back to that. And maybe that's not what I choose, because what I've learned along the way, and this kind of goes back to personal story, is my focus was so much there, just like so many people's focus can be so much on their business and getting lost in work, that my focus was so much there that other areas of my life weren't flourishing. And there's many reasons for why that happened, but that was a thing. And I think that I think whatever you have to say goes in here.
Okay. Yes, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I attended a workshop with Ashley, I think almost 2 years ago.
Yeah,
that was my
almost 2 years
first
ago.
flirtation with the inner athlete.
Yeah.
And I was exposed, and what I learned and my takeaway and what Ashley really taught me in that workshop that spoke to me is that when you're talking about the physical body, and when you're forcing, to me, I think just round peg square hole, I was forcing myself into an old version of what I thought I had to do to my body, but I wasn't paying attention. And again, my journey has been motherhood and having babies and things like that, and so which changed. It changed my body, it changed my amount of time that I could dedicate to exercise. And so I was forcing, my inner athlete wasn't working because I was trying to do what I used to do, you know, in my 20s before having kids, and it wasn't serving me anymore. I was forcing something that wasn't working, and so I had to adjust.
Yeah. So, and that's why I was talking about transitions earlier.
Yes.
A lot of times that transition piece is really hard for people. You even had a story this summer, and you were going to CrossFit.
Oh, yes, CrossFit.
And because her husband's big in CrossFit, does competitions, so on and so forth. And not that this is all about fitness, but it's a really good example. And that was one way maybe you guys connected, working out together, even if it wasn't together. But it wasn't working for you anymore.
It wasn't. And my body, I love that mind body connection. I love exercising. Doesn't mean I love Well, I have a love-hate relationship with running. Anyone, I hate it when I'm doing it, and afterwards I'm like, I feel amazing. So anyway, but I've always had exercise or physical activity in my life, and it's kind of gone like this. But anyway, I did CrossFit for almost 5 years as an amateur, even after my use. But what Ashley's saying is that finally, I think it was about a year ago, last fall, I was, and I don't know, I never saw a doctor, but maybe, I don't know if people are familiar, sometimes you can, CrossFitters get what's called adrenal fatigue, like they overtrain, they don't nourish their bodies. And I, come 3 in the afternoon, realized I would feel miserable. And I wasn't even pushing myself that hard. I was all about modifying. I wasn't doing competitions, but I felt miserable. Exercise should not make you feel miserable.
No.
Do you agree?
I agree. And a lot of people think that it should.
Like I was, and
they're not doing it right unless they feel terrible.
Well, and that was my
the
wake-up
truth
call.
is that is not the truth.
Yeah. My wake-up call was like, this is not serving you anymore. And so I shared that with her. Like I was like, yeah, this CrossFit thing, I need to go out and do my own thing. This isn't working anymore. My body hates this. I feel miserable. So I had to go out and just find something new. And, you know, a little more yoga, a little more bar class. You know what's hilarious? You throw on a bunch of weight in CrossFit and then you go, has anyone done a bar class? And then I did 3-pound weights. I'm like, how am I so sore? I was throwing around 100 pounds at the gym.
Totally different.
So, totally different. Yes.
Totally different. So the point is that in health and fitness and in social media is that you have so much noise coming from all different places. And when you have so much noise coming from all these places, it a lot of times can drown out what your personal needs, wants, desires, goals are, because you're constantly comparing to what's going on outside of you or trying to be a certain way so others, I know you want to say something, I think.
I just had a question.
Oh, yes. Question.
Is there, I think you were talking about mantras. Is there an exercise or a mantra you're probably going to give us so that when we are in the moment, we're in the moment.
Yes.
And it's real and you can feel it, but you gone temporarily crazy because of externals.
Yeah.
So you're letting something outside affect how you feel inside. Yeah.
My biggest thing, so and this can be with anything outside of exercise and eating, but what does my inner athlete want to experience right now? So if you're in a place of feeling less than, you don't want to feel like that. That feels like shit. What a question you can ask, because you want to turn on like the curious part of your brain. So when you ask a question to yourself, as funny as it may seem or as weird as it may seem, when you ask a question, you'll usually get an answer. So playing around with what that answer is for you in that moment is a really good way to shift that current experience or that current I don't feel that great about myself. And if it is related to eating, if it is related to exercise, when you ask that question, how does eating or exercise fit into that? I think that's one of the easiest ways.
So ask, what does my inner athlete think about this? What does my inner athlete want at this moment?
Yes, want at this moment, want to experience right now. I think anytime I start doing work with people, we have to shine a light on or create awareness around what ideas of this cultural compass are in our mind that we may be trying to follow that just really aren't working, because you really want to make this what is the physical experience you want to have, how do you make it personal versus trying to fit yourself inside this one size fits all way of doing things. And then you really want it connected to what makes you, and it takes time to learn these things, what makes you feel energetic, alive, and strong. And that's gonna, hands down, change throughout your life. That's why this isn't just okay, I found out I like CrossFit and I'm gonna do that forever.
It's not one and done.
It's not one and done.
Can I add? I want to add a little nugget onto what Ellen's question and then what Ashley said. And this is why we're here doing this tonight, because there's such a synergy between the inner athlete and what Ashley does and what I do. You know, my first step of core is create a positive and powerful mantra. And so part of that and Ellen probably knows what I'm gonna say, but I'm a big fan. Has anyone heard of the phrase "fake it till you make it"? Yeah. Let go of that. It don't work. At least I don't believe it does. I don't believe fake it till you make it works. If I have somebody in my office that's struggling with their body image, and I say, well, just go out and say, I love the way I look. There's no leverage. There's no utility. So I have this concept, and it's what Ashley just said. If you're going to ask this question, get curious, and then try to change that dialogue, it has to be positive. Yes, we don't want negative in there, but it has to be realistic.
Yes.
So I'm a big believer in this realistic and positive. So if you're creating a mantra, or changing that inner dialogue, it has to both be realistic and positive to get any leverage. The example would be instead of somebody who's struggling with feeling comfortable in their skin or their body image, instead of them saying a fake it till you make it, would be I love my body, because they don't yet. They're working to let So a more realistic and positive example of that would be I'm learning to love my body. Just that switch, or I'm learning to appreciate what my body can do. I hope to love my body one day. I see my body can do this. But just I love my body, that doesn't offer anything for anyone. It doesn't get anyone anywhere. So when you're coming up to change the dialogue that Ashley's talking about, just make sure it's realistic. Don't force it, because forcing it won't change anything, right?
May I add just a mantra that I'm trying. I haven't exercised it enough, but I'm in there and I'm going to read it out loud.
Are you telling me that you're exercising and just throwing it out?
Yes.
I like that.
But I'll read it out loud. It's not mine. It's something I'm stealing. But I am me, and I am enough. I'm always enough. I will always be enough, and I am more than enough.
Oh, I love that.
I love it.
I like that. And that's something that I feel like I keep thinking, and the more I think about it, the more I think about what it's actually saying. Because words are just words until you actually have an emotion with it or a bond.
Yes.
And it's hard to actually keep those words and say, yeah, I am enough. Because we've all had things in our lives where we feel like we're not enough.
I love that. I'll always be me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's not going to change.
Right? I mean, we are one
Yeah.
equals one. We are who we
That's
are.
beautiful.
We are.
So, yeah.
Did you create that?
No.
Did you? Okay.
I stole it. I am not.
Okay. All right.
Stole it, but it's great.
But I like
But
it.
she
She
did
did a really good job.
Yeah, she did.
Because I feel it. I can feel it. And I need the restroom so bad.
Go to the restroom. It's right there.
Rude.
Don't. No, it's fine. We're very cash. It's Friday night. Yeah.
I did this 3-day seminar. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of it. It's like a SI or landmark, and one thing that they do is they give you, like, your, it's kind of, you take the things that you might not be good at. Like, so, like, my negative self-talk is like, dang, like, I've just gained all this weight. But it's like, pick words that you use to talk down to yourself, and pick the more positive word, the opposite of that, and then give that affirmation to yourself, so that you're really directing very purposefully the things that you might not be good at, or the negatives that you're sharing with yourself. That works. So you've done those classes. I'm
actually signed up to go next week.
To SI or Landmark?
To SI.
Cool, good for you.
I'm super excited.
It's a cool thing, yeah. Anyways, that's a whole other topic, but that worked for me.
Yeah.
And so, like, my mantra that they've, like, got coaches and stuff that help you. So mine was like, I'm a courageous, forgiving, cherished woman, gently loving and accepting myself. Those are all things that I've never did. So I repeat that back to myself a lot, and it's stuck with me for many, many years.
That's awesome.
So you won't get that there. That's like more in the advanced classes that they do. But I just think that's a cool way. Like, pick one word that you tell, like, I'm this, I don't like myself for this reason. Like, change it, get a new word. And every time you go there, give it a new one, a new meaning.
Totally.
And that works.
We could do a whole topic on self-talk and mantras.
I bet.
I always feel like the underlying piece to all of this is enoughness, like feeling like we're enough. Yeah. In all different aspects of life. So, yeah.
What should we So I know we want to wrap up here soon, mindful of time. But before we, I want to share one last kind of wrap up of kind of core confidence in this piece. And then if you want to share something, then we'll open it up to questions, discussion. We want to thank our lovely host. We didn't mention Miss Kat over there, who's
awesome
provided the
yes,
wine and
we're
food. We're gonna get you. I promise.
Eyeing. So good.
But the thing I really want to leave you with on this piece of core confidence is we talked about equal to 1. I use Ashley, my co-host. Ashley is equal to 1. Ashley is equal to 1 if she has a little extra weight wherever she doesn't want it. She's equal to 1 if she is doing 4 workouts, 5 workouts, 0 workouts. Didn't you travel soon and lately, or maybe it was the summer and you didn't work out? You ate lots of food, or maybe you worked out.
Just not really a lot. No, I went to Austin and I went to Spain.
That's it. Austin. I was thinking of Austin. Yeah, Spain. But like,
I ate all in Austin. That's all I did.
Well, as you should.
Yes.
But anyway, what I was saying is that no matter what, we're equal to 1. What I want to leave you with, and I'm sure you've heard it before, back to the social media, is that we have to pay attention, right? Like, she's in the restroom maybe, but Tiana, I love what she did. She realized that Instagram, sorry Tiana, I'm talking about you, but I was using it as an excellent example of when we are mindfully, like I have a mantra that I tell people, like the most successful people in life are the ones that are most self-aware. So the first step in dealing with comparison and perfectionism is you have to be self-aware about what is working and not working, right? And it's, Tiana, sorry, I'm using you as an example. When you in high school noticed, this Instagram is not working for me, it's making me not feel good, you stopped doing it. You went away from it, right? And so for social media and comparison, that's one way. Now, people have even, at times, I'm like, should I give it up? But I know many of us in this room, business-wise, I'm using it, right? So like, it feels like it's not an option for me to like, I'm gonna cut all social media out from my life. So what do I need to do? I need to contain. I always do this, contain. So, maybe your container, my container might be this, yours might be this, yours, so one tip or tool is be aware of what's working for you and what isn't, right? In social media. If it's hurting you, that means you need to make a change. How are you interacting with it? How often, right? And when you start to contain, how you do that might look different, like if we pulled around the room, but contain. One of my strategies, and I'm not talking super complex stuff here, I didn't learn this in grad school, but what I'm saying is that, but what do we do sometimes the simple stuff is the one that's most remarkable, I would say, in actually changing our interaction with something. So I might look at the clock and see it's 8:53, and I've sat down on my couch, but my phone's there, and I'm like, yeah, I've got Netflix, right, my phone. Like, it's 8:53. Okay, Melissa, you get till 9. And then I move my phone away. And then, like, 9 o'clock, I'm done. So I'll give myself windows of, like, you cannot just mindlessly, thank you. It's getting late for me. But I cannot mindlessly just keep doing this. So my containment is I'll choose and I round up a time. That's just one strategy I use. Maybe you decide I'm allowed to look at it between 9 and 10 a.m. and then I don't look at it till tomorrow or till I go from 7 to 8 p.m. at night. What is it? Or maybe you decide, I love how people are taking social media breaks, vacations. Take a week off, take a month off, right? So what is it you can do? It's a little controversial, but there are certain people that sometimes activate us, trigger us for whatever reason. And Freud would say a lot about that. But my point is that if there's somebody in your social media realm that is hurting you more than helping you, it is okay to block them. Or what is it? They call mute. I don't know all the things.
It's mute. I just did it today. And literally it was because I was coming here.
Yeah.
I unfollowed at least 20 groups today.
Yeah.
And 40 people.
Yeah.
I was done.
Yeah, I mean,
some I blocked, some I deleted. Oh, I got busy. I just did. Today, this week was so incendiary.
You're right.
We had just pain. We had a lot of pain. And there's some people I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm
Me
done.
too.
And I did it silently. I released them gracefully, but I'm like, I'm done with your bullshit.
Like a fish.
Or I'm just done, or I gotta take a break. And I think it's so, oh my gosh, we have so much control.
But it's so empowering when you do that.
It
Would you
was
say
nice.
it was empowering?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's like, boop, beep, beep, beep. It's a bells and whistles going on.
And it doesn't have to be me.
My
You
bed
don't have to.
on my phone, like,
Beep, beep. But so we need, you know, and again, simple mantra here. But if it hurts you, stop doing it.
yeah.
Right? Like you do not have to force something. And so again, sometimes if we can't completely stop, contain. So you muted some people, I set limits. So whatever way you can, you know, contain, because that's going to help with that comparison as well. And then always remembering whatever mantra you use, but definitely one that's good on the external, internal is as simple as starting with Ashley's equal to 1, no matter what.
I like that.
Remember
Always
that
equal to
forever.
Whatever. One of the ones I found myself accidentally inventing, you know how people generally show, of course, what they want you to see.
Yes.
The most desirable, humorous, intellectual, sexual, adventurous. So I'm always like, for this one thing this person showed me, I wonder what were 5 things that happened that I didn't see.
Oh yeah.
Because I know what happened in my life that I didn't show. So, yeah.
Well, and that's why, has anyone ever, and I am not, I mean, perfect doesn't exist. None of us are perfect. I was going to almost do a fallacy and say, I'm not perfect at this, because no one is. But I try occasionally, and I feel like I should do it more, but I occasionally try to share something on social media about like how chaotic my life is. Or how fucked up my life is. Or like what I look like, you know, like let's not just share the highlight reel, right? Like let's be real. Let's share how hard something was, because that will change the conversation too. But we can only do that, we can only control ourselves. So, you know what I mean? Maybe you decide, and that's that act of confidence. Do you know what I mean? That you could take a risk and say, look at this picture of me. There was, oh, this just happened to me. There was a photo of me and a colleague, and I hated the way, it was kind of like with the one me and you did accidentally earlier. Like,
I did that on purpose, and then I showed it to you.
I know,
Like, look
yeah.
how good this looks. And
Yeah.
then I took a selfie like this.
But it was pretty much, this picture looked like that of me.
Yeah.
And somebody had taken it, but it was a business thing, and I was like, I'll post it. And I was like, wow, I look terrible. But I posted it because I needed to, and it was important. I didn't like the way I looked in it at all. It was not a flattering picture. But what would it say if I wouldn't post that picture? We don't look good in every picture because it's just a fraction of time. So that's also all of us in the room, challenge yourself to take the risk and not just always show the highlight reel. That's the way how you can change your internal dialogue of comparison too, right?
Yeah.
You know, final thoughts.
So my final thoughts are that I think we did a really good job establishing all the external things that make us feel less than. I don't need to repeat that. It is especially huge in the health and fitness, diet, and exercise industry. I want you to instead consider, instead of that cultural compass, that you have an inner athlete, whether you consider yourself an athlete or not. And one of the easiest ways to do this is to consider this relationship that you have with this part of yourself that wants to feel energetic, alive, strong, whatever words you want to put in there. Those are just some that I'm gifting to you right now. But in having this relationship, like any relationship, things are going to change over time. Be very open to what is going to work for you on any given day. This isn't about some prescription that you need to follow. It is about making yourself feel the best that you can on any given day. And yes, how does eating fit into that? View it as eating versus dieting. And how does movement fit into that versus having, you know, or looking at it as training. How am I training for life? How do I want to move my body? I think those are some of the most positive ways that you can look at this. You know, when I tell people, like, think about it as like you're dating somebody, you're trying out something new, because a lot of times when we're trying out something new, our confidence is a little rocky. But a lot of times that's where we have the opportunity to grow. So don't allow that to keep you stuck, or allow that to keep you from giving your power away, like telling the story of, oh, if I just, followed this diet plan or this exercise plan, then I'd have it all. Because that is not the case. That's not where you're going to find your happiness in life. But really stay in your own lane with this. And when you think about it as a relationship, it makes it a lot easier to stay in your own lane and then getting distracted by other people and what they may be doing. So that's that.
Thank you so much. Questions, comments?
Yeah.
Very needed. Thank you.
I just want to say my Dove chocolate's on point. Dare to cross that line.